Start. Okay, the story about the puffins. Beginning of last year, my wife Janet got a residency in Iceland, and she's a photographer and all those sorts of exciting things, and she wanted to film ice and icebergs and go on glaciers and all those lovely fantastic things. So I said, can I come along? And so I carried all the photographic gear for quite a few weeks and behaved myself, and I thought, well, I want to obviously do some work, and it was the rare occasion where I had 3 months off. So I thought I'll do a kids book, and I always wanted to do a children's book since I was about 15, and I thought, well, I may as well do it now. So while she was doing all the ice things and what have you, and spent many hours at the computer, I just started doing puffins, because the puffin season's in summer, and we went to Westman Island for a few days, and I madly photographed, or she helped me photograph puffins, and so I did a children's book on puffins. So, and it is unusual because I don't usually do colour work. I have done some hand coloured series and before. For me to produce a book like this and actually print all the colours, it would probably take me about 4 or 5 years. Each block took probably about a month to do, so it was an 18-month project. I naively thought, oh well, I'll do this in 6 months, but it was a slow process. And there's 16 blocks. So basically the story's about puffins meet up once a year for about three or 4 months, and they're monogamous, so they join up for life and what have you. And it's basically about having offspring, and I tried to it's based on Iceland, so there's the beautiful Icelandic sheep, and so I've tried to the giant skua, who's a native bird, but they attack the puffins and kill the young and all those sorts of things. So it's basically and then the rabbits invaded Westman Island, and they're a problem on the mainland, Iceland, so, and then they share sort of burrows, or then they fight and all those sorts of tradition of netting the puffins, which they picked up from Denmark about 150 years ago, and they do capture them, and the tourists eat them and all those sorts of exciting things. And there's a tradition where they actually let the puffin go, the first one they capture of the season. So it talks about the history of amazing how long they hold their breath underwater, and then obviously there's the dreadful pollution that's happening everywhere, so there's the global warming reference, and plastic bags, and how the temperature has changed, and so the different sort of fish that they have to eat now, often it's flooded with herring, which they can't eat, and so a lot of the young are starving to death, and this is the mother sort of giving it the herring, and it's too big, because some birds will actually devour it and then regurgitate for the young, but puffins don't do that, so they hand this whole. But I had a bit of fun trying to get the underground and then the above ground, and by the end of it, after 18 months, this was exciting because it was a different, but trying to cut clouds and water and all those sort of things, in the end it started to drive me insane. I nearly gave up twice. I got halfway through and went, no. Yeah, and it's quite amazing because the parents sort of leave about a week before, and this baby puffin, fluffy puffins, turned into this sort of 6-week-old sort of teenager, and basically they have to teach themselves how to fly, how to feed, all those sorts of things, and try and go out there and survive. So they have a rescue. So this is a real puffin.
Oh, nice.
That's Toti, and that's who it's. And I went back and they let me in, and it was just wonderful. And they growl, actually. They get annoyed if you get too close to them and all that sort of thing, but he seemed to pop on my shoulder and what have you. And this photo's having a bit of a print, they've got a big workshop, but not a lot of people were using it. So on the International Print Day in May, I went in there, and I thought that about 5 or 6 people would print with me, but they just watched what I did, which is a bit off-putting. But it was a fantastic time. I had an absolute ball. But and if it doesn't get published, I'll do a small self-publishing thing or something. But it's not a bad little story, and I think. But they're amazing birds. And I was really cautious about doing it because it's such a cute little bird, and everyone's there've been a lot of books written about them and all that sort of thing.